Today's episode is a masterclass in rethinking business development. I'm joined by Eric Rubottom, engineer, team leader, and self-described innovator, who shares how he's built an entire career not just by doing great technical work, but by following his curiosity, pitching bold ideas, and growing entirely new service lines from within. Eric offers a fresh take on what BD really means. Less dialing for dollars and more value creation, curiosity, and alignment. If you've ever thought, I'm not a salesperson, well, this one's for you. I'm Katherine Jelinek, your host for Beyond Engineering, a podcast from RTM Engineering Consultants, where a genuine devotion to people and their passions empowers us to grow together, lead with integrity, and make a meaningful impact. Hello, everyone. I'm really excited to be here today with Eric Rubottom. Today, we're going to have a discussion about what a career in business development is like. And I'm excited because Eric has a very non-traditional approach and perspective on this in general. We'll also talk about how to discover if it's something that you might be aligned to, and dig into RTM's approach to win-win client relationships. So thank you so much for being here today, Eric.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited to talk about something that I never really thought I'd be talking about, to be honest with you.
Yeah, let's start right there. So how did your career begin? And I know it didn't begin in BD. So what was the intentional plan from the start?
Yeah, so I'm an engineer. My dad was an engineer. I grew up wanting to be an engineer. If I was to go back a long ways, and this started early. I was already showing signs of wanting to be a civil engineer or that sort of thing early in my when I was a kid. And as time went on, I realized that as you talk to most engineers, what got you into this? Why did you get into this? It's a lot of I was good at math and science in high school and that sort of thing. It just felt very natural to me. Those kind of things, you develop, a very logic and process driven mindset and whatnot. And that's how you end up as an engineer. So I went to, I went through high school thinking I was going to be an engineer. I went through college with getting an architectural engineering degree at Kansas State. And came out into the industry. Been doing building systems engineering, architectural engineering my entire career, 22 years at this point. And I'm still an engineer today. I mean, I was just working on some schools earlier this week. I lead a team of engineers that work on hospitality projects, luxury resorts, and that sort of thing. Still spend a lot of time doing engineering. The business development side of things is something that just kind of happened. I really didn't have any desire to become someone that was doing business development. There's things about business development that just kind of, I don't necessarily, that doesn't sound like me. That doesn't sound like something I want to do. But at the end of the day, it just really became more of a passion for, I'm going to say, entrepreneurship. And that's just naturally part of that mentality is, if you're going to come up with ideas and go sell them and that sort of thing, you got to be able to sell them to somebody. And that's really what business development to me is at the end of the day is it's, developing that sustainability for what you're doing, for your team, for your business, those kind of things.
Yes, I love this approach and seeing it as entrepreneurial and innovative and solutions oriented rather than selling is, that's such a natural way to tap into one's interest line rather than feeling like I have to be, salesy or something like that.
Yeah, it's like, and that's a great point. And that's the part of business development. When someone says business development, it's like, I am not a sales guy. That is not me. I don't want to go out and cold call a bunch of people and just be like, what we called it back in the day when things were getting thin was like dialing for dollars.
Yeah.
Nope. I don't want to do that. And I'll be honest with you, part of it is part of that just abhors me is I really struggle with rejection. I really struggle with people telling me no. I really struggle with people feeling like I'm wasting someone else's time because then I feel like I'm wasting mine. So it's like the sales, like I don't look at it as sales, and like a lot, and as we talk here, like a lot of the perspective and a lot of the mechanisms and the processes that I try to employ from a business development perspective have nothing to do with sales.
I love that. Okay, before we get into what that perspective is, I want to just back up and talk about how that perspective was formed. So, how did you naturally, oops, I fell into this somehow from being an engineer? And I know that,
Sure.
yes, you are still doing engineering functions to some degree, but how did this really begin? How did this start sprouting for you in your career?
All right. So really early in my career, again, I was an engineer. I was doing design work 90% of my time. I had this, again, leveraging that entrepreneurial side of things. Like I had this idea of just seeing some other things that were going on in the industry at the time, and this is about 20 years ago. I was focusing mostly on electrical systems for buildings, but I've kind of always been a computer geek, kind of a technocrat type person. So I saw that there were some other entities out there that were working on those kind of systems for buildings. The structured cabling, communications, wireless, AV, like all those kind of the techie parts that go into buildings. And 20 years ago, they were really an afterthought. They were just, hey, we're going to go, I'm an owner, I'm going to go hire a design build vendor or an integrator to just do this stuff for me at the end of the day. And it just slapped onto the face of a building that architects and engineers spend a lot of time developing. There were very few entities out there that were actually providing like upfront thought and integration into the design process of those systems. I was like, hey, these things are going to become more and more important over time. What if we did this? What if we actually offered that service as part of what we're doing? I went to my principals, my bosses at that time, and I'm 2 years out of college. Like I'm just a little dork, right? Now I'm a big dork. I was a little dork at the time. I saw like that was kind of the start of business development to a certain extent, and kind of how I see business development is like I'm selling an idea. It's like,
Wait. I know that's great that you're titling it business development for the sake of our conversation. But what you were doing was coming to your team and saying, what if we,
yeah,
you
yep,
were seeing an opportunity, seeing an area that could be more than what it is
yeah.
presently.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And that you feel that
It
need.
was
What if we?
it was getting buy-in on an idea.
Yeah. Yeah. That is the
That's what it
entrepreneurial
was.
part. Right.
Yeah, exactly. So at some level, that like so I was doing that internally and got everybody is like, hey, no, that's a good idea. Go run with it. So thankfully, my company at the time really kind of gave me a good leash to run with, a little bit of oversight and that sort of thing, a little bit of guidance from hey, let's keep some guide rails on what we're doing here, but let me kind of run with it. It's like, go develop this idea, go make this idea something that we can actually do.
Mm-hmm.
So we did that, and we used that idea with a couple of clients that we had at the time. I had one principal that sat there and said, okay, I've got this particular client that I work with that works on these kinds of projects. We don't provide this service for them right now. We don't do this work with them very often. We don't work with that particular client not very often. But let me just run this idea by them and see if there'd be value there. And so they took one opportunity with us. Hey, yeah, let's have you do this on this particular project. Um, and we developed the idea, developed the expertise enough to where we did a good job, and that just kind of bred more opportunities. So it's like, okay, well, now that client wants to use that service on more things, and not only that, their client, the owner at that time, was like, hey, we really like what you did here. Can you help us with this on other things? So now all of a sudden there's these opportunities that are coming in that I didn't have to go sell it at all. I had to convince a couple of key people for buy-in on the idea, and it turned into
Internally.
all these opportunities. Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't have to go talk to the architect client. I didn't have to go talk to the owner. I didn't do any of that. I mean, someone did at some level, but it was a really easy conversation because it's just kind of like, hey, we're already doing this stuff for you. We got this really good idea. I think it's going to help you out. Can we provide this for you? Can we help you out?
Wow. Yes. And the thing is you're not even during this whole conversation. It's so funny. You're kind of in this BD thing and per what you've said, it isn't that. because what you did, had an idea, shared it, got buy-in, did it well because the people, you and those around you, really actually wanted to do the thing, were
Yeah,
excited about doing the thing.
yeah,
And then based on that, created new opportunities around it, just adding that value, adding an extra layer of innovation, thoughtfulness, passion, and there was more opportunities coming.
yeah. And I'll be honest with you, a lot of those opportunities just simply they don't stem necessarily from for asking for more opportunities. They stem from doing a good job with the opportunities you have. If if you jump in and say, "Hey, I want to do this for you," and you don't follow through on it, man, you're going to have to do a lot more work trying to be able to root those seeds someplace else. The like the business development side of it just kind of starts taking care of itself if you focus on what you have in your control, and that's doing a good job.
I love that so much. Okay, so this was like the idea number one, experience number one for Eric back in the day. And then what happened for you in your career? Were those around you kind of like, hey, that was great, do it again?
Yeah, yeah. So that kind of took root, and we ran with the technology side of things for a while. The team, the team size ebbed and flowed over time, with the economy and that sort of thing, but was continually looking for growth mode. But all of that growth was actually just word of mouth. On the technology side of things, again, that was a team that if I go back, I started that team 20 years ago. I have virtually zero work today that has come from going out and cold calling about that service or that sort of thing. It is just going back to doing a good job, and it kind of takes care of itself. It's gone from one client and one school district that we worked with to multiple clients, multiple school districts, into other verticals. Actually, working moving into the hospitality vertical and the restaurant vertical, those kind of things, uh, purely through word of mouth. And it's a small world out there. It's that original client that we did that work with. We worked with on that one project that turned into multiple projects with that school district with other architects, where the school district was suggesting to architects that were coming in on new projects through bond elections and that sort of thing to use us for that service. And that client, that architect, would then take that effort. And interestingly enough, that particular architect has changed companies twice, and I have gone with him twice now.
Gee, you were benefit at this point. We're just
Yeah,
populating.
yeah, and so they've moved, like they've changed companies twice, and now we're doing work with those previous companies as well as their current company, and expanded out to multiple school districts because that architect uses us for that service. Again, I've never had to go do any of the actual like cold calling business development for any of that, and it just grew by doing a good job and following through on what you're talking about.
That's awesome.
So then what? Okay, so that's the tech. As you might guess, I'm probably not just I'm going to do one thing in my life and
Sure. Tell me more.
I'm going to move on. I'm going to just keep doing that. A number of years ago, the company that I work for, or used to work for. So just for everybody's awareness here, I used to work for a company called BG Building Works that was acquired by RTM about a year and a half ago. So I still feel like I work for the same company. I've worked for the same company for my entire career, but all of the names have changed over time. If I go back probably 3, 4, 5 years ago, back when it was BG Building Works, so that entity, BG Building Works, had experience in the luxury resort vertical market. So we would work on big hotels, mixed use, luxury condos, on mountain properties. Based in Colorado, we do a number of on mountain properties like mid mountain restaurants and skier services buildings, those kind of things. So we did a lot of work on that in that vertical over time, but it just didn't seem like we were super profitable at it. So I was like, hey, I have an idea. If I go back through and think about all of our experiences in these particular projects, I would categorize the issue why we're not profitable and why we're not necessarily profitable on these projects is our approach. We just kind of throw whoever we have at it. And there are some nuances with these projects that it would be really nice to develop a very specific skill set around. So I proposed, similar to the technology side of things, to my partners at the time. I was like, hey, let me build this team, and this is what we're going to do. We're going to take a team, we're going to build a team out of the parts we already have. We're going to figure out who we have here that want to do this. They need to be passionate about it. We're going to build a team to do this. And this is what we're going to focus on. We are going to focus on these types of projects. And I promise you, if we do that, we are going to turn this from a zero margin product into a 20% margin product. And so, cool, let's do it.
Okay,
So,
wait, pause.
yeah.
This is so good, first of all. And back then it was
BG Building Works.
Building Works, excuse me. What I love so much here is as I've gotten to have these great conversations with so many people from within RTM, this is the consistent theme, right? This like double down on what you're passionate about. And there's so many thoughts going through my head. Number one, oh yeah, what a hook, line, and sinker here with this marriage between the two companies, that because you were doing this then, thinking this then, but how it just is such an unlock to everything. This plugging people into what they're passionate about. The fact that you were able to solve this business issue by just focusing on that in a more acute degree.
It matters so much. It goes back to doing a good job, and that really being the crux of everything that I'm talking about here. Like, right. We can talk about business development, we can talk about team leadership, we can talk about execution on projects, we can talk about profitability, we can talk about standards development, we could talk about entrepreneurship, and like all of these different topics. Every single one of them comes back to do a good job and things take care of themselves.
And that also means having
and that's why the passion's important.
Yeah.
Because if you give me a group of people that are not passionate about it, I am going to have a hard time getting them to do a good job. It affects me. Like if I'm asked to do something that I don't want to do, and I don't care if it gets done well or that sort of thing, you think I'm going to spend the time to make sure it gets done well? Well, I will, because I'm weird and I have a fetish for doing doing the best that I can at everything that I do. But that's not everybody. So at some level, like the idea of team building is not, and the approach to things doesn't have anything to do. I mean, there's a big part of it that is, okay, do I have the right skill sets? Do I have the right expertise? Do I have the right experience? Do I have the right, those kind of things are important. Absolutely. But you can find a group of people that don't, you can find all of that stuff and you put them together. And if they aren't passionate about what they're doing, for whatever that passion is, if they are indifferent about what they're doing, you're not going to get good results. And it's that, I mean, that is the bottom line.
That passion is the key difference between innovation and mediocrity, because that's go ahead. Yeah.
I would agree with that entirely. I would agree. What I would argue is that innovation doesn't occur without it.
Yes. The human being has to be interested, has to be dialing in, has to be putting in that extra energy, effort, thinking about it on their drive, that kind of stuff.
And you and I can be on the same team, and we can be pursuing the same goal as a team. But what you are passionate about and what I am passionate about can be two completely different things, as long as those passions are in alignment with each other. Okay. So a really good example, at some level, this is going to be shocking to the people that are listening to this podcast.
Okay. Shocking.
I don't care about construction.
Oh, hey.
I am not passionate about construction. I am not passionate about construction. That is not what gets me to come into work every day.
So what are you passionate about?
So what I'm passionate about is that innovation. Is that
yes.
It's something that I actually wrote an entire white paper about this back in my time at BG, and that is the pursuit of excellence. What does it mean to pursue excellence? And that is the kind of stuff that I'm passionate about. But you might absolutely be passionate about construction, and you might absolutely be passionate about, like, if you're working on that on my hospitality team, Destinations Design Studio, you're working on that team, you might be passionate about, I'm doing these really cool projects in Jackson Hole and Big Sky, Montana, and Vail and Aspen and Telluride and Lake Tahoe and all these places. It sounds really cool. It is really cool, to be honest with you. But you might be super passionate about that because, hey, I can work on these cool projects. And if I go do a site visit during the winter or something like that, I can take my skis, I can go skiing for a day, that kind of stuff. You might be passionate about that. And those are two completely different things that gets me excited about my job. It gets you excited about your job, but those passions are aligned.
Mm-hmm.
So now we have something we can build a team around.
Yes. To just really quick highlight what's going on with you, though, I see, and you said it, it's being able to blow the doors past what has been, to see the area of opportunity and say, what else? What else? Open it further, And that's kind of cool. And I just want to kind of highlight that because we're going to get there. But for other people who are maybe earlier in their engineering career and find themselves listening to you and are like, yeah, I totally resonate. I'm entrepreneurial. I'm within a bit larger organization. I'm kind of itching to see how else I can take what I know and apply it and think bigger, more creatively, blow some doors open. Like, it's so cool that you've been able to, I don't know, be the entrepreneur within and like start new ideas and new teams and be able to make them profitable.
I've really benefited from always being associated with a team that was receptive to that. And how much of that receptiveness was those individuals, how much of that receptiveness was what I was bringing to the table as far as pragmatic ideas, or already thinking about how I'm going to execute on these ideas, how we want to execute on these ideas. I find it very hard to believe that my charisma plays into it because I genuinely don't feel like I have any. Um, but but
Perfect.
how much of
Wait
that?
for that. Wait for that car to stop. There we
Sorry about
go.
that.
You're perfectly fine. Okay, but how much your charisma plays into it?
Yeah, like I'm not sure that I probably have developed some over time, and I myself sell myself short here, but I genuinely don't feel like I'm a very charismatic person outside of particular scenarios. Um, how much like what are the pieces and parts in that stew? I have no idea the ratios of them,
Well, what
but
you are is authentic, and that's key.
I try to be.
Right. And part of what unlocks authenticity is you're doing something you really want to be doing, you know?
And
So you
yeah,
don't have to show up and fake it.
I'll tell you, and this is just kind of a personal insight into me. This is one of the most infuriating things that I know about myself when it comes to the good old question, the good old annual review questions like, what do you want to do, and that sort of thing. And if someone like I still today, I've been doing this, and this has changed dramatically over time. What do I like? What do I want to do? What do I want to spend my time doing? It's like I can't answer that question for you. I can tell you what it is today, but I don't know what I want my career path to be over the next 10 years, 15 years of my career, because I don't know what that looks like today. And part of that is because I don't like I personally don't fall into I don't fall into the category of I'm just going to find my slot and I'm going to fill this role or that sort of thing, because I'm always looking at it as like, what isn't being done, or what needs to be done better, or what could be done better, or what could we do differently, or that sort of thing. And those always seem to be the roles that I fall into. Those always seem to be the roles that I end up pursuing. So as I sit here today on July 3rd, 2025, can I tell you what my role is going to be 3 years from now, or what I even want it to be outside of the context of, hey, I just want to like that is my paradigm? No, I can't. I have no idea.
Can I make a tangent comment on that? Somebody I really admire recently told me there's a difference between goal setting, where you think you need to like project what you want to the future and then go make it happen, and being oriented. Being oriented is like always in the moment, where you're living from like your own why or your own values that are aligned with whatever you're doing, and constantly being oriented, but whatever you're actually engaging with shifts. You don't need to have that projected or planned out. And that's what I'm seeing with what you're doing. You're oriented, living from a why, loving to innovate, loving to push the envelope, not needing to have the path planned. And that makes it actually even better. It's more
Yeah.
fun that
To use some physics terms,
way. Okay. Yes.
again, for our likely listeners out there who are, probably coming in from an engineering background, to use some physics terms, I genuinely feel like I always have a velocity. I'm always moving forward, but the direction or the vector, the combination of those two things changes over time and can be very flexible, very agile.
I love that. Okay, let's take a pivot in our conversation. What in your mind goes into a healthy win-win client relationship? Like, what is the secret sauce?
So I think there's a couple of things. One of the easiest ones. This is the easiest part to do, and it's a part that a lot of people fall really short on. Is just being there. I think that if you're going to show up, just show up. You're in the top third. It's that simple. And I know that sounds like contrite at some level, but it's that simple. Just show up. But what are you doing by showing up? You're providing value. What are you doing by providing a good service and doing a good job? You're providing value. Um, what are you ultimately trying to do from a competition standpoint? Is you're trying to provide value. So I think the biggest thing is, are you providing value to your client? You know, and that is the biggest. Like, all those things fold into that. How do you create a win-win here? Are you providing value to your client? And that value can come in a lot of different ways. It can come from a higher level of thinking. It can come from a more efficient delivery. Um, it can come from just purely lower cost, and that's not necessarily the world I like to play in. Yeah, that's not me. But there's a role for people like that out there. There's absolutely a role in an environment and a world where just being the cheapest is the most important. Are you providing that value to your clients? So how do you create a win-win with your client? How do you create that win-win? Is, are you providing value, and on the win-win side of it, are you receiving value? And I think that's really important to recognize. Also, is this that when you're working with a client, that is a relationship. Okay, this isn't McDonald's. I'm not selling you a cheeseburger and you eat it and you go away. Okay, this is something that we need to work together and understand that we need to both benefit in order for this to work. And that value you receive from that client might also be can also be variable, but it goes the same way. They need to show up. They need to be engaged. They need to be part of that. They need to. I'm looking for relationships that not only is our team supporting our client and the overall team at a level higher than our competition might be, or whatever it is, but then I'm also looking for relationships where my team feels like they're being taken care of, and that they're being appreciated, and that their time is valuable to the
Hmm.
project, to the effort, whatever it might be. So there's a lot of factors that go into that, and really evaluate to really evaluate what that win-win scenario looks like and what goes into it.
Yeah. All right. You've got me just kind of stunned in a good way. I love that you have high standards for your client relationships. It's not just this dynamic where you're like, we'll provide value and bend over and offer our best no matter what all the time. Like if you're going to show up with your best, you want others who are showing up with their best. If
Absolutely,
you're going to
absolutely.
be present and engaged, they need to be present and engaged. I
People are
love,
excited to work in that environment. I mean,
yes.
if I go sit down with my team, and like, they're not going to be excited to work on a project or work with a client or something like that doesn't reciprocate that excitement, that doesn't reciprocate, at some level, even that respect or that sort of thing. Like, that is an absolute necessity to have a high performing team and to provide the value that you're looking for. Because over time, that's, you can put on a brave face and say, hey, this is just a rough patch, or this is just a we're all going to have tough projects. We're all going to have tough projects. We're all going to have tough scenarios we have to navigate. But over time, you're going to find that there are relationships that seem to have a lot more of those than other ones. And the how the other person, the other entities in that relationship are engaged and react in those tough scenarios, or is going to weigh in a lot on that. Because if you feel like you're in it together, if you feel like there is still value despite the toughness in there, then your team is going to be much like you as a team is going to be much more willing to continue to engage in those tough scenarios. You're not going to lose that passion. It's not going to fizzle out and say, hey, it's fun. Like this part's cool, but it's not worth it. Okay. So like, that's what we're trying to stay out of. We're trying to, I want you to be excited about these things. I don't want you to lose excitement because of how difficult it is.
Wow. You're in the business of passion optimization here. And
Kind
that
of,
really,
kind of.
yeah, well, and to keep your team so high performing and passionate, I mean, there's a certain threshold that you have for your clients and standards and reciprocity for treatment. And that's really very important to call out. I feel like a lot of companies go on not really saying that, not really addressing that, allowing it to happen. And then you're right. Like it kind of sucks the life out of culture slowly or
Yeah.
not so slowly.
Tying all these things into business development. So you're hearing me talk about what we're talking, like the topics that were this overall subject and everything like that. And you notice how much I've talked about business development, how people
You have not
traditionally think
said that
about business
word
development.
much at all. Yeah.
We haven't talked about it all. The
Right.
reality is all of these things have all of these things that we're talking about, all of these methods and processes is what has allowed this destinations team to grow from 6 people and $1 million a year in invoicing to now 16 people, and we're looking at we're hitting $4 million a year in invoicing and that
Nice.
sort of thing on our projects. And none of this has come from, hey, I'm going to call up so and so and see if I can work. And I've never worked with them before. I'd like to work with them. That sort of. None of that has come from that. Like this
Right.
growth has entirely come from just let the thing grow on its own. And it seems like a big world out there. The construction industry, the architectural design industry, and everything. It's a small world. It is such a small world. Word gets around. Developers talk with developers. Owners talk with owners. Architects talk with architects. There's all of these different industry get-togethers, and they all spend time in the same place. They're gonna talk with each other. So these things get around.
Just show up and do great work. Okay, so then let's move into our third segment, which is what would you actually share with others? Like some young up and coming engineers who might be listening to this and hearing threads of themselves that they might not even acknowledge yet. What here, I'll throw a bunch at you and then just respond wherever you're ready. I want to know about how everything is BD because I've heard you say that, or
Yes.
when we were
Yes.
introduced, that was a part of how we were introduced, and how
Yep.
everyone has a role in BD. And then I also want to hear you speak directly to your former self,
Okay.
essentially, and how would you suggest they begin to flirt, navigate, grow into a next evolution of what could be their work?
All right. Touching on the first topic, everything is BD. Everybody has a role in BD. Um, I think it really it revolves around that idea that business development it really is so much more than just going out and finding that next new client that you're not currently working with. That is absolutely a part of it. I do some of that work. I am absolutely going out there and developing new clients. Figuring out who they are and that sort of thing. The biggest key with that and I think the way that you can be most successful with that is going back to what I was talking about, value and selling an idea, as opposed
Yeah.
to like when I go out and I'm talking to a new client, I am not selling. Okay, Tony Merchandani, turn your ears off. I am not selling RTM. I'm selling an idea. I am going and I'm presenting an idea to a client, to a new architect, a new developer, that sort of thing. I'm presenting the idea of who we are and what we do, our approach, and why it matters. Why? And it might not work with everybody. Hey, I will be the first person, the first person to admit, man, what we're selling might not be what other people want to buy, but it's it's selling that idea, not selling an entity, not selling like I'm not selling MEP services. I'm not selling structural engineering. I'm selling an idea. And I think that's a really key perspective to keep in mind when you're trying to develop a new client. The other aspect from a new client perspective is you need to know explicitly who and why you're talking to them.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're a vacuum salesman, if you're showing up on their doorstep and ringing the doorbell and saying, "Hey, I'm selling this thing, please buy it," would you buy it? No. Like, why? So why put yourself in that position? Do you really feel good selling things that way, or would you rather sell an idea? Would you rather sell something that you believe in and you are like you're connected to? I think that's a much easier sell because that becomes, you said it before, much more authentic.
Mm. And it seems more emotionally intelligent to tie in the who you are, the what you offer into like what the outcome would be for them, which is the idea. Like where RTM connects with that opportunity. And then you don't even barely need to mention RTM. It's the idea that you'd be offering to them, the opportunity where you're mutually engaged. And that's yeah, I feel like you don't need to, well, if you're trying to sell yourself or your company, then they have to like extrapolate, okay, how can I use this? What is the idea? But you're helping and being more emotionally intelligent by skipping those steps and
Yep.
going straight to. Yeah.
Let's just cut to the chase. Like,
Yeah.
how do you benefit by us providing that value? But I
Mhm.
need to go into that conversation already knowing that value is a benefit to both parties, right?
Yeah. And how do you know
So
that though going in? Is that research that you
research,
do?
it's
Okay.
research. It's I am very, very selective about marketing campaigns because they are a tremendous use of resources. They are a tremendous use of time and dollars. There is an opportunity cost associated with it, and it's really important that you feel like you have a really high chance of success with that opportunity cost because you're going to do it right. You're going to invest a lot of time in it. Making sure, like, just positioning yourself the best you can before you actually go public with this idea. And going public just means like getting it out of your head and into a format that other people are going to be able to see it, interface with it, react with it.
Okay.
That's super
Perfect.
important.
Questions. So you were just talking about, having the kind of outreach, more traditional BD, meeting potential new clients. But then you just mentioned marketing. And so what are you actually doing in that area? Once you have a new idea, are you branding it and putting,
It really
online
depends.
material out there to explain it or?
It really depends. It's what are you trying to accomplish? And I think that's something that like you have to keep that at the forefront of anything that you're doing here is what are you trying to accomplish at the end of the day? You can't, if you, the biggest time sink and chance for losing control of your effort on something is just not constantly reminding yourself, what are you trying to accomplish with this? And is this in pursuit of that? Is this really going in that direction? Um,
Can you
so
give me an
marketing,
example of a marketing campaign that you did that was like the right thing, the worth the effort and in alignment with why you were doing it?
yeah. So the most recent one actually was when we rolled out the Destinations Design Studio team. It was something that we pulled this team together. We actually went through a relatively big marketing effort and everything like that. And the reason why that we did that is because we wanted to illustrate the, I'm going to say, special nature of what we were doing. It was something that we were always like, BG Building Works at the time was known for doing this stuff. Okay. What we were doing is we were taking the opportunity, and a lot of this went to our existing clients. Like I said, this wasn't even marketing that we did to new clients. This was marketing we were doing to our existing clients of saying, hey, you know that we do this. Look at this commitment that we're making to doing it better. And how is that going to benefit you at the end of the day? And marketing played a big role in that because then we could sit there and say we could pull together something and say illustrate, remind our clients, this is the laundry list of things that we have done in our past, and we're combining all of that resource, all of that knowledge now. These are all of the places that we've done this work, and all of the locations that we've done this work, and the different types of projects that we've done, everything like that. Is like, let's consolidate all of that into one place instead of being a spread all over, and be able to go in and very, very pointedly say, hey, we know you guys work on these kinds of projects because we've done them in the past together, and we're committed to making these things even better. So that's a really good example of a marketing one.
That is.
um, Externally, we do the same kind of thing, but going into new clients. I've got a couple of new clients right now we're still in the, it's in my head building the campaign stage. We're not even officially rolling that thing out, but a big to those clients. But it's it's bringing the verbal story, which is something that I'm doing at that level, but it's also bringing the visual story into it. A lot of our clients are very visual people, so if you can not just tell them a story, but give them the pictures to go along with it, it connects. It starts to have a little bit more mass, a little bit more gravity,
Mm-hmm.
and that sort of thing. But again, those are big efforts. So you've got to know exactly who you're doing that for and why you're doing it before you really get people engaged in that effort. Because if you know those answers, A, it's going to speed up your delivery once you get to that point. B, it's going to speed up the likelihood that it's going to succeed. But then you're also going to be a lot more efficient with other people's time internally, and you're already going to have it in your head, a picture of what you're trying to accomplish, and that sort of thing. So it helps from a creative standpoint. It helps from a communication standpoint and a delivery standpoint. Like, just knowing why the hell are you doing what you're doing is a critical component to following through on those things.
Okay. Yes.
I noticed that I have not answered the first
Yeah,
question.
let's go
Like,
back to those. Yeah, I was
wow,
just
that was,
thinking about that too. I was like, hey, when good tips.
yeah.
Remind me now how. Yeah.
We totally went on a tangent there, because I think it was important, at least when we're talking about business development. A lot of the discussion it has been and is about, it's not all sales. Like business development does not equal vacuum salesman, right? So I want to talk a little bit about, yes, we do things from a business development perspective that is going and trying to generate new clients on our own, and not relying on that word of mouth to get there. Because
Yeah.
if
Some
you
of the.
if you rely on word of mouth, it may eventually get there, but not necessarily on the schedule that you want it to. So I want to grow this thing a little bit faster than what we currently are, whatever it might be. This thing might be. So going back, everything is BD. Everything you do is business development, because everything you do factors into doing a good job. And the worst or the best way to do business development is do a good job. The most damaging thing you can do from a business development standpoint is not care about what you're doing, because that also gets out, and that will start to show up in the industry, and people will see that. So everybody has a role in BD. If you just graduated from college and you are starting out as an engineer one at RTM, and you are working on this particular project, you're working on this particular vet clinic, okay? Everything you are doing on that project is business development,
Mm-hmm.
because everything that you are doing on that project is providing value. So if you do, like, it goes back to doing a good job. Even if you are a new engineer, if you're a production person, if you're an admin person, it doesn't matter where you're at in the company. If you're Tony Merchandani and you're the CEO, everything that you do is business development, because everything that you do is going to be reflecting what this company is and does and is capable of.
Mm-hmm.
So you take a
Like,
day, like, there are no days off. Like, everybody's going to have bad days. I have bad days, but you can't let, like, bad days are what they are. But you have to have that passion about what you're doing. You have to stay engaged in what you're doing, because you've got to keep bringing it every day, because everything you do is business development.
right. I feel like what you're saying is action either expands or contracts the company?
Every single one, every single thing you do. And I know that sounds that
Yeah, it sounds a little daunting. It's
it
like,
sounds a
damn.
little daunting. And the biggest thing you can do is just like, hey, are you excited to do this? Whatever it might be, what are you excited about? And if you can't come and I genuinely mean this, if you sit down and sit there and say, okay, this is what I do on a daily basis and I'm not excited about any of it, figure something out. It might be, talking to somebody and be like, hey, I'm just like, what else out there is there that I can help out with? Or is there something else that you could be doing that might be more exciting or that sort of thing? You got to find something you're passionate about. And again, I've said it before, I'll say it again. I don't care about construction, yet I have made a 22-year career in construction. And why? Because I am passionate about all of the other things that I'm doing to further our team, to further our services, to provide new services, to provide more value to somebody. And that's what I get enjoyment out of. That's what I get benefit out of. So that's what keeps me coming back is how can I make someone's job easier? How can I make someone's job better? How can I help somebody more? How can I create something over here that is new, that is innovative, that has value? How can I iterate this particular thing that we're doing here into something that is more efficient or more effective or whatever it might be? That's what keeps me coming back every day.
So now speak to the young folks who are listening who might be like, oh, I kind of see and hear myself. I feel this way. I like to like open new doors, create new ideas. What would you say to those folks and help them? I don't know. Your route seemed pretty, it didn't seem like it seemed pretty direct. I mean, like it seems like there weren't like a lot of huge bumps or major detours necessarily. I mean, we all have those, but what would you suggest to folks who feel resonance in hearing this conversation? Like, how could they move forward
Find
differently?
someone that's going to listen.
Mm.
Go to your there's two aspects. A, find someone that's going to listen, but B, share it. Like if you have ideas, share them. Okay, don't expect all of your ideas to be great. Not all of my ideas are great. I've had ideas that have flopped over the years. I've had directions that I thought that we should go in that we pursued that were not great directions over the years, and we had to backtrack a little bit or that sort of thing. But don't be afraid to come up with ideas. Don't be afraid to share ideas. Find someone that's going to listen. Whether it's if you're a younger engineer, that's going to be your mentor. That's going to be it could be your peers. Share your ideas with your peers. Don't be afraid to have those discussions. If you have an idea that you're the one in the trenches, if you've got an idea that could make what you're doing more efficient, bring it up. Okay, don't automatically assume that we need to make that change, because I can tell you from experience there's some really good reasons why we do things the way we do, but that's a really good learning point for you to understand why we might do something the way they are, or the way we do. And if if it's a good idea, we should absolutely put it into play, but find someone that's going to listen. um, if you find out that the people directly around me aren't listening, God forbid that's happening here at RTM. Like that is not RTM core
Right,
values.
right.
Um, but okay, cool. This company, RTM has 500 and some odd people that work here. You know my name, Eric Rubottom. Go look me. If you work at RTM, go look it up on it. Go give me a call on Teams. I am absolutely happy to talk to anybody about anything to explore those ideas. You're working for a different company. Do the same thing. Like, don't be bashful about sharing your ideas. Um, be open and receptive to feedback. I think that's another one. Um, I will admit there's a level. One of the things that has benefited me over my time is I do have that a knack for that entrepreneurship. I do have a high level of ambition, and it's not an ambition to be at the top of the ladder or anything like that. The ambition is to do more. Like I
Yeah,
always want to do
curiosity.
more. I always want to create more value. I always wanted to I want to be involved in that. I want to be involved in that. And I want to be involved in that and everything like that. Be aware that can have a negative impact on your available time. But those are decisions that you have to decisions and things that you have to navigate on your own. But the biggest thing is like, don't be afraid to share to share ideas, to pursue ideas, but then also recognize where they come from. If and this is the biggest one, is your ideas that are going to be the most valuable are going to come at times when you least expect them. you know if you sit here and tell, like, brainstorming ideas are dumb because all you're going to get is iteration or ideas that lack pragmatism. Like, that, in my opinion, other people are going to disagree with me there, but I think that brainstorming sessions are stupid. I think they're holistically a waste of time. I think that you can have good ideas come out of there, but the likelihood of it is not very high. Where your best ideas are going to come out of is after you've had that session and the continued thinking that people have. Okay. Once upon a time, I shared this as almost like a mentorship comment. And this is something that I would share to younger folks. And it kind of ties into that passion side of things. When you go home at the end of your day, consciously recognize when you are thinking about something from with your career, with your work, whatever it might be. Consciously recognize that, because that's actually what you're passionate about. Okay. So if you go home at the end of the day and you are thinking about, man, I think we need to change this thing in Revit, or we need to, we really like, there's this thing you're stuck on that from a design perspective, and it sounds, again, cliche, shower thoughts. Like, if you're thinking about this in the
Yeah,
shower,
right.
recognize that you're thinking about it in the shower, because that's what you need to spend your time doing. But also realize that your best ideas are going to come from there. Your best ideas I'm a cyclist. I go out and ride my bike a lot. Mountain bike, road bike, gravel bike, doesn't matter. Like, I tend to ride my bike quite a bit, and I can't keep it out of my head. Like,
Thinking.
that's
Nice.
where my thinking comes from.
Yeah.
It's not from sitting in front of my laptop and saying, man, I got to come up with an idea here in the next hour or two. It's like, man, it's going to come at you from nowhere, but you have to be ready to catch it when it comes your way.
Yeah, it's that reciprocity again. Being open. Okay, so you've given us a lot, and this is definitely an episode with punch in the best way. Close with a closing appreciation. Anything you want to recognize or appreciate as we're wrapping up.
I sit here and say that I don't care about construction, but the construction industry has given me a lot.
Look at you. Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. The ambition, that pursuit of excellence, like, that can't be understated. That is something that, like, those things have really just been helped generate a lot of what the construction industry has given me, but it has given me a lot. You've heard me say it a couple of times, and I probably wouldn't have a different career result, but I would have had a lot different career path if I had not been working with folks that would listen to me.
Hmm.
So I could sit here and just start naming off names. I'm not going to, because we don't have that kind of time. But I have peers. I have former mentors and supervisors. I have principals. I have clients. I have owners. I have all sorts of people out there that have given me the opportunity when I presented the chance for that opportunity. Um, and that is something ultimately I owe my entire career to that. So if I was to give some appreciation out, if you're listening to this, if you have been one of my peers, if you have been one of my supervisors, if you have been one of my principals in the past, if you are one of my clients or anything like that, just know that every single opportunity that I've gotten that we have been able to take advantage of together, uh, my career wouldn't be where it is without it. So, very appreciative for any of that.
Hmm. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for such a insight-rich conversation here, Eric. And I know that I'm not just speaking for myself when I say that you've given me a lot to think about in terms of the different ways to see business development And I just absolutely love the very valued, focused, human-centered approach that you bring, because it's definitely going to survive. It's not the other side of things that we're seeing out there right now, like very heavy AI. It's the one that's going to stand the test of time, and is where humans in this kind of line of work need to be thinking about, like, reciprocity, values, excitement, passion.
Yeah, you touched on it really quickly there, and I know we're towards the tail end of our conversation here, but like AI is the topic that people toss out there, and it's just like it makes me want to put my head in my hands, and it's really because there's either a fear or an excitement or whatever it might be about AI, and I'm just like, what we're talking, these concepts transcend that.
Right. They do. This is where human beings in value creation roles, we lean into this now. Like, if the other things get to be easier and taken over by AI, this is where humans get to exist, is what you've covered today.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for such a wonderful conversation, Eric. This has been really, really a delight. And
absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yes. And everybody, thank you for listening. And we look forward to seeing you on the next Beyond Engineering episode. Take care. Thank you for listening to this episode of Beyond Engineering, a podcast from RTM Engineering Consultants. To be notified of future episodes and to watch past episodes, please follow Beyond Engineering on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. Until next time.